Okay? So, my name's Johnathan. What's up, y'all? Now, how many of you have been to SeaWorld before? And now, how many like what SeaWorld does for like all the dolphins and orcas? Who here doesn't?
I don't know what they do.
Well, today my topic is whether or not the killer whales at SeaWorld are better suited for captivity than their wild counterparts. Now, me being the SeaWorld supporter I am, I 100% agree with them that they have so many advantages to those in the wild. And that's actually what my main claim is today, is that orcas living in captivity provides significant advantages than their wild counterparts. Now, today I'll be giving 3 secondary claims. First one, captive orcas allow better killer whale research. Second, orcas that are put in captivity, or sadly, born in captivity, not sadly, my bad, they will die if they get released. And my third fact is that killer whales in captivity have significantly longer lifespans than those of the wild. So, first point, captivity allows killer whale scientists to study them up close rather than the vast ocean, because the ocean's pretty huge, so I'm pretty sure you guys won't want to be doing that all day. SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment have been studying killer whales for over 50 years, since 1965. Now that I find incredibly fascinating, how creatures that have not been studied that long, they've gotten so much research in over 50 years. Now, most of the anti-caps, people who find the idea of captive orcas illogical, don't understand that scientists can't just go out and study orcas whenever they want to. So this is a way that they can study them up close, where they have a 100% chance of finding awesome animals. Now, like I said before, studies of captive orcas have been researched for over 50 years. The true reality about the studies that SeaWorld progresses is that they're shown to be the exact same, but in different circumstances, such as birth, mating, reproduction, and all of the goodies in between. Not only are they able to witness all this, they realize that they're just the same, but like I said before, in completely different circumstances. Now, my second point, or supporting claim I should say, orcas that are put in captivity or born in captivity will die if released. Now, the whale that played Free Willy, of course you all have seen Free Willy, right? He was an orca in captivity, but the animal rights activists weren't so fond of him in captivity in the first place. So they sought for his release, and unfortunately they succeeded. But since he's been in captivity his whole life, he ended up not joining any pods. He couldn't find food on his own without human aid. And sadly, in December of 2003, he contracted pneumonia and died at the age of 27. Since he was in captivity his whole life, he wasn't able to live in the wild. Now, the second point has more of a brighter side. Unlike Free Willy, Morgan was an orphaned orca calf rescued in 2004 by SeaWorld Orlando. Now, after she was rescued and made better, she was able to go back to the wild, but the government deemed her not releasable because of her health records. So she was sent to a park in Spain, where she's continuing living to this day, which I'm pretty sure she's doing just fine. Now third, my final point is that killer whales in captivity live longer than those in the wild. Now, most of the rights activists claim that the average lifespan is 20 to 30 years, but I'm about to debunk that theory. Now, the oldest female orca living in captivity is by the name of Corky. She is a female that lives in SeaWorld San Diego. Now, like I said, debunk that theory. She's over 50 years old, more than half of what the expected lifespan is. It's amazing how they think she's gonna die soon, but she's as healthy as can be. She's just like a 5-year-old little girl, so energetic. The fact that she is over 50 makes the theory of the 20 to 30 life expectancy a bunch of baloney. The second one is that almost half of the orcas in captivity are 25 years or older. Here are some examples. The matriarch at SeaWorld Orlando, Katina, is close to 39 years old, and she's had 7 babies. Oh my God. One more example. Ulysses, a male bull orca at SeaWorld San Diego, is 37 years old. As you can tell, they've lived way past the 20 to 30 year range. Like I said, those animal rights activists don't know what they're saying. Now, finally, the conclusion is that killer whales in captivity have many more advantages than those in the wild, such as research, a wonderful life living, and restaurant quality fish that they just seem to love. Which, of course, why wouldn't you? So this brings back that I believe the orcas in captivity are better off in captivity where they don't have to worry about all the dangers that the ocean brings. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was given on 2 hours of rest too, so. I guess that's good.
It's like being a spoiled kid. If you use it,
She's like a tiger.
All right, Jonathan, the proposition is identified, although you start off with a question whether or not it's this particular way. It's probably better to start with the position that you have rather than posing it as the question there at the beginning. But in the audience survey, I'm not a fan of those as an attention device, but I can understand why in this context it might seem like it's a good way to go. But once you got to the proposition, it was pretty clear what your argument was. You do get a good layout of what the secondary points are going to be, so it's pretty easy to follow. Sometimes the phrasing on those secondary points is a little bit awkward, and there are cleaner ways and simpler ways to express the same concept, but I know generally what the position is that you're taking, and so the signposting, like I said, in the body of the speech was relatively clear to follow. There are some things that you give as background information that there's no sourcing on. As an example, you mentioned that scientists are able to observe the whole life cycle of the killer whales, birth and all that kind of stuff that's going on. How do I know that? I don't know what they do at SeaWorld. I know you believe this is to be true. Why do you believe this to be true? As the scientist said, here's what we do at SeaWorld. Tell us that. Give us a source citation on. I'm sure that information is there someplace, and I'm not sure why it's not being cited. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's no source presented on the first point at all. I know that there's criticism of SeaWorld, and so there's controversy on that point, and it seems intuitive that they would be able to do those kinds of things, but I think that's a presupposition that's going to need some proof, and you can't just get by saying that it is true. You have to demonstrate that it's true. The second point, you have an example of the whale that got released and then died, and again, I think the example and the details on that are pretty specific, but I know you got that information from someplace, and we need to get a source citation on that. So you read the story. It was either in a popular publication because that was a famous incident, or there's some information that comes from a specialized publication that's reporting on it. Tell us that. We're not getting a source citation on that. It could very well be apocryphal. It's just one of those things that you heard about someplace. Because the truth is, people hear stories all the time. They pass them along as if they're true, and they don't get the story accurate. You want to make sure that you're giving, as your argument, an accurate account of what happened. And I don't have any way of checking that based on what you've said in the speech. All right, on the longevity issue, I think this is where your evidence gets to be a little bit stronger, because you have some specific examples that are presented as illustrations of the point of longevity. You got the one whale who's 50 years old, another couple who are 39 and 37, and again,
Sources.
yeah, sources on that. I think that this is factual data and example stuff, so it seems unlikely that it's going to be made up, but it's not hard to say,
Yeah.
you know, SeaWorld reports, even if it's just the SeaWorld site that says that. It's not like they invented 10 years and added it onto the whale. They would probably be able to do that. I think you have an interesting way of describing some of the events that you're talking about. Sometimes you're having a little bit of fun with the language there. There's a little bit more to be developed on the controversy at the beginning of the speech.
Yeah.
You can mention some of the criticisms that have been made of SeaWorld so that we know that, I mean, there are filmmakers that have been after them. There's animal rights groups you mentioned. You don't mention any of them by name. If there's a particular crusade, you might point out, for instance, that there are boycotts currently being done of SeaWorld that are affecting its business in a variety of ways, so that there really is an active element out there that is opposed to this sort of thing. And I want to tell you why these people are wrong, you know, and you get that part pretty right, that, you know, show that opposition really does exist, and there's a reason that we need to make this argument.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the source thing seems to be the biggest issue in the argument.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.